what is there to say anymore from this podcast? I would like every single one of the listeners/viewers, depending on where you're consuming this. If this is on YouTube, then viewers. If this is on Spotify, Apple Music, then listeners. Just go back and just look at the list of the last 4 podcasts that we've done and just skim through the titles. And if you're new here, what you'll see are 2 podcasters, 2 brothers, 2 friends, slowly but surely losing their minds. Welcome back to Backward Point Podcast. My name is Najar Sayed, and with me as always is my brother and co-host Bashar.
Our podcast title for when Pakistan lost to the USA was, "Is this the lowest Pakistan cricket can go?"
Mm-hmm.
The next match we lose to India in a situation where Pakistan needed run a ball and 8 wickets in hand. So the answer is yes, Pakistan cricket can go lower than that. And then the last episode we did, the title was, "Can Pakistan qualify for Super 8s?" And if you clicked on this video, you understand Pakistan has been eliminated.
Yeah. Newsflash, by the way, Pakistan is out of the World Cup. Now, people wanted to know, Bashar, why this podcast wasn't out the day that Pakistan was out of the World Cup. And that day was Saturday. It was a fateful day, bright blue skies here in Toronto. And the problem was that it was extremely gray and murky down in Florida. Hurricane warning, apparently rains that you've never seen in your life pouring through the skies, the faucets in the atmosphere open. And, in Islam, we believe that rain is a blessing. And a lot of people think that this indeed is a blessing.
Sadiq messaged me and said that
Yeah.
back in the olden days, the Arabs would pray for rain so that they can have farming and crops. Flash forward to today, and we are in a position where we were praying for the rain to go away.
Were we though?
At some point, the Qudrat-e-Nizam fails you.
Or
And I think-
that's my whole spiel is, did it fail us? Or is it exactly what we needed? Or has it put us in our place?
It's put us in our place.
So it didn't fail us. Because did you think that this Pakistan team deserved to be in the Super 8s?
I said no. Go back to the podcast for the preview, and I said this Pakistan team has too many holes. We don't have a settled top order. Our middle order is basically non-existent. Our strike leg spinner Shadab Khan is not taking wickets. So I don't really see Pakistan progressing past the Super 8s towards the top 4. And I'm not surprised. I sort of saw this coming in a way. This was like loading for the past few months. You could see the glaring issues in this Pakistan team. But us being supporters and fans, we were hoping against hope. And I think you're one of the people who is the most responsible for giving people false hope.
I disagree.
You said Pakistan needs momentum.
They do.
They beat USA.
Yep.
My man just said beat USA like it's nothing. Like that was the game that came back to bite
Pakistan
us.
lost against the USA in a super over. They choked. Pakistan lost against India in a last over. They choked. Pakistan, if they had just played their cards right, had a little bit of grace, a little bit of courage, then Pakistan would have been 4-0 in this tournament. And that's 100% the momentum that I was talking about.
But I don't think that this team had it in them to have that grace to gain that momentum.
That's
like
a different
just
story.
their body language, the first match, and then how they bottled the chase against India.
Look, that's a whole different story about did they have it or not. All I'm saying is that it was in the cards that if they pulled those wins through, then they would have had 4-0, correct?
And even towards the end, you were like ignoring the forecast in Florida. You're like, it's
It
going to
didn't
clear
rain.
up. Things to change. Like you could see it's a hurricane warning.
But
There's floods happening.
Okay.
This is not a ground where the drainage is the best, or they weren't even covering the ground properly.
I was not aware of that. All I said was that it won't rain. And when the toss was supposed to happen at 10:30 a.m. all the way till 1:30 p.m., it did not rain. It rained after.
But I told you that the ground might be wet.
I did not know that. So my whole spiel was, hey, the ground will be able to, there won't be rain. And there wasn't rain. It stopped raining at 7 or 8 a.m. that day on Saturday. and then it started raining again at 1:30 around 1:45 p.m. So what I was saying that if the ground was not wet, which I was totally unaware of, there could have been a game out and maybe Ireland could have pulled through. I honestly don't think Ireland could have won that game, seeing the way that they've played this entire tournament. I think that they lost to Canada, they lost to India, they lost to Pakistan, and they probably maybe like 80% would have, 70% would have lost to the US. Like, obviously, there's no game, so speculation is like a moot point. But I mean, we're out. Like, what do you want me to say?
Someone messaged us saying that they
That's the
ordered the
bottom line.
Pakistan Matrix jersey and Pakistan is eliminated before the jersey got delivered.
That's why I respect Pavilion Sports. They had it sent within 2 days. We had it right before the first game, and we wore it. We wore it proudly, and during our live stream, we wore it on the podcast, and that was probably the last time we're gonna wear it, unless they use the same jersey for Champions Trophy. Then I'll just rehash it.
So here we are. Pakistan is out of the tournament. Pakistan barely managed to beat Ireland. There was a scenario during that run chase where Pakistan was chasing 107 and they were 62 for 6. And at that moment, I was like, okay, this can't be happening. Like, okay, I could see it's happening and I could see why it's happening, but I couldn't believe it's happening.
Yeah.
Story of a Pakistan cricket fan.
Yeah, it was tough to watch. None of the games that Pakistan have won were easy or a smooth sail. And I think a lot has to go with the way that the pitch was curated. You have to take that into account. The way that the pitches were made put all the teams in a same playing level field, which there's two sides to that argument. One is, hey, if you indeed are the best, then you should be able to play in any condition, and no matter who the opponent is. Second is that the pitch handicaps your star batsman. The fact that Virat Kohli's scores are 0-4-1 in this tournament speaks volumes. He's not a 0-4-1 player, right? So it puts India and the USA on the same playing field. It puts Pakistan and USA not on the same playing because USA won. It puts Canada and Pakistan. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it was one of those situations where it literally could be anybody's day. And it's not only this group. Everybody who's played in New York has had close games. South Africa and Bangladesh. Bangladesh almost put it through. South Africa and Nepal. Nepal almost went through. And like, there were games where even India was struggling against Canada at some point. Sorry, India was struggling against Ireland and the USA at some point. And it was just like, hey, if we can lose, you guys can lose too. And honestly, I didn't want India to lose because I think they're the better team. They should go through to the Super 8s. But it was difficult to watch. At the same time, it was highly entertaining because the South Africa-Nepal game, come on. It almost happened for them. Even though it wasn't in New York, but the closeness of it all, the pitches are quite same in the West Indies right now. No one's scoring 180, 190.
Do you think the pitches being the way that they were, like you said, being an equalizer, was that a good thing? Or did you think that those pitches, especially in the USA leg, weren't a great representation of what T20 cricket is across the globe?
I think it changed the definition of what T20 is. Suddenly, like, it's such a contrast. Within 2 weeks, we had games where 225 was being scored and chased with 2 overs to spare in the IPL. And then within 2 weeks, you had 120 not being chased. So it just redefined what T20 cricket was all about. You had to reinvent the entire game. Strike rate was kind of out of the window. It was just try to hit a run a ball, get 120 off 120, and then you might be able to stop the opposition. And it was just, you had to adjust to that. And every team was sort of blindsided by the way that the pitch was behaving. They had no idea what to reply to that. And the pitch came out to better everybody else. And whoever held their nerve were the ones who won. And that's why India pulled out that win through Pakistan. And Pakistan couldn't through the USA.
I felt like as much as this New York leg was entertaining, it was probably not a great representation of what T20 cricket is across the globe. You look at, high scoring matches or even matches that have a pretty even balance between bat and ball. I think any time where the balance tips over to the batting side or the bowling side just makes the game a bit one-dimensional.
Really, you thought any of these games were one-dimensional? I thought it was a lot of fun. Whenever that pendulum switches towards the bowling side, it's a lot more fun than it is for the batting side. That's just my opinion. When there's low scores, when 119 is like a high score and it's like being defended, Come on, man. That's a lot of fun. That Pakistan India game, we were on the green side. Still, like, it'll go down to be like one of those games that Pakistan bottled, but it was so much fun to see the way that India came back. Like, you have to give it to Rohit Sharma. He never lost his spirit once, not even when Rizwan was dropped.
So how did Pakistan get here?
How did Pakistan get here is a very good question.
Because I'm not sure exactly how to approach this episode.
You shot from 1947? Because we could.
Even before that.
Even before that, yeah.
Yeah, because I think current state, Pakistan eliminated, right? The team's in shambles. Lots is happening within the team, within the media, and I'm not sure exactly where to start off with.
All of the reports we've gotten on record and off record are horrible. Like, there is not a glimmer of hope right now from people that are journalists, from people that are close to the team, from people that we've been talking to. And it's just like, I cannot believe we got here.
The fact that there's a consensus in the media that this team is not united, that they are split apart, that nobody's talking to each other. And you can see that being reflected when these players are on the ground. You can see the way that Shaheen Shah hit that last 6 against Ireland.
Disgust.
And the way he sort of gave that head nod to Babar Azam, like, how dare you not send me ahead of Abbas Afridi?
It was very cold.
How dare you not rate me as a batsman? And this is how you finish a game off, not by anchoring and playing a run on ball.
Less than run the ball. I think on the last game that Babar played was 34 balls, 32.
And that wasn't enough because you needed that cameo from Shaheen Afridi and Abbas Afridi to help Pakistan win the match in the end.
I agree. I totally agree. I think Pakistan just were not able to be ahead of the 8 ball, as they say.
I think this whole unity thing in the team, it stems from Babar Azam taking the captaincy back. And Babar Azam in a post-match conference said that it was the PCB's decision to give him the captaincy back. To that, I would say it was also Babar's decision to take it back.
To accept it.
If somebody is offering me drugs, I have the common sense to know that this is not for me. I've tried this. I'm not good at it. I probably don't handle it that well. So even though it's being offered to me, I have the option to say no.
I can't believe you just put drugs and the Pakistan cricket captaincy on the same pedestal.
It has to do with power. It has to do with control. It has to do with people not being able to let go at the right time. Like, if you look at Pakistan's history, you can probably count the players who actually retired and said goodbye to captaincy on one hand. Imran Khan, Yunus Khan, and 2009. Mohammad Hafiz after 2014 World Cup, Misbah ul Haq in 2017 and 2015, Inzamam. So with Pakistan's history of captains, that's like the 5 people or 6 people that have actually said goodbye to captaincy themselves.
Afridi in 2016?
Afridi actually wanted to play. Post that World Cup, Afridi made a video saying that he wants to continue playing.
Yeah.
But he was dropped, and then Sarfaraz was made captain.
Yeah, and then he never got
So
out.
I think it's a problem with our players that they don't know when to hang the boots and when to call it a time on certain parts of their careers. I think Babar's captaincy era was a good one. The whole era from the 2021 T20 World Cup all the way to the ODI World Cup in 2023, it was a very wholesome era. The one thing you could have said about that team is that it was united. Everybody was backing each other. There was that hashtag you keep mentioning by Shaheen Afridi and Rizwan, Soch Nabi Manai, about removing Babar from captaincy. And to see the team go from that to where it is now is extremely sad.
The crazy thing is the same lot. It's the same boys. It's the same 8-9 people. So something happened between them where they've sort of shifted gears and they don't see eye to eye anymore. And it's a lot has to be said about the management or lack thereof, or you could call it the sort of the extent at which the management is absent. It's insane. Firstly, the rapid changes doesn't help anybody. I was looking at some stats. I think I've been consuming a lot of Pakistani cricket content in the past 14 days, starting from Harlama Purjosh to that Ahmed Shahzad show, to Rohan Nadeem's show, to The Flick, to Doc and Rashid Latif. So like all of that consumed in my head has become this huge giant green monster with a crescent on its chest. That's what it's become in my head. And it's everybody's saying the same thing. How many chief selectors have we moved from in the past 18 months? There's been like 22 coaches when you count all the coaching staff in the past 18 months. Like there is no stability. People don't know if they're going to be. One thing that we were talking to Cliffy Deacon about in one of the buses when we were going to the Islamabad United camp, he was so frustrated. He seemed frustrated at the whole PCB thing, and he was like, "Bro, I don't even know if I work for the PCB right now. I have no idea."
Yeah, we were like, Cliffy, do you work? Are you still with the team? He's like, I think so.
Yeah. So, and that's someone who's been with the team for a very long time, 2016, 2017. So, if he doesn't have surety, then who does?
Yeah, I think it goes back to the fact that insecurities, perhaps you can say that there's jealousies. And how can you have players that are secure when the security is supposed to be given by the management,
Mhm.
by the chairman? Now, let's say if the current prime minister is overthrown tomorrow, there's going to be a new PM. He's going to bring his friend as chairman, and that chairman will then come in, try to stamp his authority by making changes, changing the coaching staff, changing the captain, and that cycle keeps continuing.
Mhm.
So until we find a way to disconnect the PCB from the government, we will keep seeing volatility within the board and that being trickled down to the team.
I think a players' union would have been a really good answer for this. If the players just sign up to this union headed by any of the senior players, and that could keep rotating as the NBA players' union does, then you can have say on where the players want to play and not. And let's say if the Pakistani cricket players do not want to play with an administration that is so volatile, then they can just sign this up and be like, hey, we're not showing up. You make money off of us. It's not the other way around. So if you want us to play, then these are our demands, whatever it is. A unified body, a decentralized system. Listen to a lot of Rashid Latif, and he's talking about a lot of the domestic structures being just insanely out of whack. There's no merit, there's no jurisdictions. The regions, the way that this whole domestic structure is set up is in shambles, and so on and so on. And hopefully, after the World Cup, maybe we'll get somebody in to properly explain to us and our listeners how the Pakistani domestic structure is set up and what are the flaws. But at this time, it just seems like if you're a Pakistani cricket fan, you have tuned out. And that is a problem. If you're a Pakistani cricket fan and you have not seen the Canada and Ireland game, you're done. You've tuned out. And it seems like, how the past repeats itself and repeats itself. I feel like we're back in that 2016-17 era of cricket, right before the Champions Trophy, where it's not fun to support this team anymore. Winning and losing is different. We lost a final in the 2022 World Cup. Nobody jumped ship. Everybody was there. Like, yeah, this team really tried hard and luck was in their favor and they made it to the final. I respect that. But at this point, when you're hearing all these rumors that are true, but they're not true, but they're kind of true as well, and you're looking at the attitude of the players and nobody's serious and everybody's kind of fighting each other, then you're going to back off as well. Like, why would you want to support this toxicity?
There comes a point in the Pakistan cricket team's history where they lose support. And if you go back in history, that time is 99 World Cup final, the 2003 ODI World Cup, Pakistan exiting the group stage, the 2007 ODI World Cup where they lost to Ireland and were knocked out of that World Cup, the 2010 spot fixing incident, the 2011 semifinal against India, the 2016 T20 World Cup, and I would say now
2015 ODI World Cup as well.
Sure.
That was a really bad one.
Sure. And then I would say now this is probably that World Cup where Pakistan cricket team loses a lot of fans. People have quit watching our podcast. Some people have quit our Patreon because they wanted a break from this team, this toxicity, and that is rightfully so. If I had the option, I would also take a break
from this podcast.
From maybe
Really?
covering Pakistan cricket, because I think sometimes we've been doing this long enough now that a lot of the things seem repetitive.
Yes.
The issues with the board, a lot of the white noise with the nonsense that is around cricket. Like, we can talk about the matches, dissect that, but there's so much going on within the management, the cricket board, the government, that it just becomes very toxic when you keep relaying that information.
Yeah, especially when you're consuming it you become, I don't know, like numb to it at some point. Like, how many times am I going to see MS Shahzad scream at the camera and turn to the crowd and like pretend to cry? There's like a limit for that, at least for me. I can gauge that to like 1 or 2 times, but then every single episode, this guy's bringing up tears and crying and shouting. And I think I do want to do like near the end a segment of us just rating all of these talk shows, because there's a lot of them with a lot of ex cricket players with a lot of agendas, with a lot of toxicity within them. And I think it'll be just fun for us to like maybe point a stick at them and be like, hey, look how stupid you are. But there comes a tipping point. And there was a point in this weekend where I think I consumed upwards of 4 hours of this trash. And I came out and I felt like a zombie. You know what I mean? Like, it was like, it felt like I ate like 3 bags of hot Cheetos at once. And then what's left? Like the first 15 minutes of that is great. Like, oh my God, the spiciness, it's so good. And then you come out, you're like, 3 bags of hot Cheetos, my fingers are burning, I scratched my eye, I was watering, and I want to throw up. And that was that. That was Pakistani media. And people are consuming this left, right, and center, man. I'm not the only one.
I've been doing the opposite, actually. I think when Pakistan lost to India, or like when they were eliminated, I just went to the gym, hit the sauna,
Yep.
and I was listening to a different podcast altogether at the gym.
Who are you listening to?
I was listening to Alex Hormozy when he was on the Modern Wisdom podcast.
Ooh, okay.
Really good. Highly recommend. And I just wanted to take my mind off of cricket. But it's hard to do that when I go to the gym and I have this one friend of mine at the gym who every time I see him, we talk about the World Cup, and he's from Guyana. And so he keeps giving me his West Indian Guyanese perspective on Pakistan cricket. And I have no choice but to gauge with him and have a conversation. But typically I'm trying to avoid...
I would switch gyms. I'm out of there.
I feel like it's important to like change the state of your mind and then come back to the cricket and then look at it maybe from a different point of view.
How do you change your state of the mind? After that Pakistan-India game, we had a game.
And then we lost our game.
And then like everybody in the dugout wants to talk about this game. And you have like 11 people with 11 different opinions. And some of them you agree with, some of them you don't agree with. And on any other day, I love a conversation. I'll disagree verbally. Like I'll be up forward with it. But on that day, I was just down, man. It was a tough day. That was probably one of the worst days of this year for me. And like you have to battle through that. And we had to come out after live streaming for 6 hours and playing a 4 and a half hour T20 game where half the ground was wet, the pitch was wet, the ball wasn't bouncing higher than knee height, losing on the last ball with a single run on a wide, coming back home, showering, and doing an hour and 30-minute podcast on Pakistan and India. Man, that was definitely one of the worst days. And those are the days that we have to do. And I just think, I don't know how Imad Shahzad sleeps that night, but when I slept that night, I just felt relieved. I was like, I gave out my opinions. There was no agendas. I was being true to myself. I was being true to the podcast. I was being true to the listeners. That one's one of our most listened podcasts in the past 6 months, minus any guests. So like you have to have that sort of discipline and courage to come out and do that. And I think we did, but then at some point it breaks you, man. And this Pakistani team, honestly, it's broken us. It's broken so many of the fans. Like the fact that the fandom is divided online, on Twitter, on Instagram, it just shows you a lot. The fact that this team is divided just shows a lot. And I don't know how you whip this team up in shape, but the characters that we have right now, they're not the answer.
Yeah, I think when I saw the Pakistan team squad announced for the World Cup, that to me was a signal that we have a lot of issues in the team. We had 5 openers, Babar, Rizwan, Saim, Usman, Fakhar Zaman. We had 5 seamers in a World Cup happening in the USA and West Indies, being Shaheen, Naseem, Amir, Haris Rauf, Abbas Afridi. We had no bowling all-rounder. We could have picked the likes of Amir Jamal or Fahim Ashraf to just add that batting depth. We had 2 middle-order batsmen, just the 2, Iftikhar Ahmed and Azam Khan. When Azam flopped the first game, we had nobody to really replace him with. So instead of having a backup middle-order batsman, we had to play Imad Wasim, a half-fit Imad Wasim against India. We all know how that happened.
No matter what he says that he was fit or not, I don't believe that.
Yeah, he has a history of knee issues. He went to England post Champions Trophy to have some rehab done, some strengthening done. And I think that's one of the reasons why after the 2021 T20 World Cup, Babar sidelined Imad and gave Nawaz an opportunity because he felt like Nawaz was more fit. You could provide some better fielding as an outfielder and just some more energy in the team. So aside from that, we've had two all-rounders, Shadab Khan and Imad Wasim. Imad, who hadn't played for Pakistan in about 6-7 months, and then Shadab, who was coming off of a good PSL, but still his bowling form had questions. And to me, Shadab will always be a bowler batsman. So a bowler first, and then his batting comes second to me. And if you look at the years in Babar's captaincy where Pakistan did good, Shadab Khan was a critical component of that team. Him taking wickets in the middle overs was the reason why Pakistan kept winning. And if you look at his stats this year, his economy is over 10. He's not taking wickets and he just looks clueless. So we might see players like Shadab go back in domestic and sort of regain their form in first class.
I got to remind everybody here, this is how vital Shadab Khan was to the 2021 Pakistan cricket team in that World Cup. He took 4 for 26 with 4 wickets down at a strike rate of at an average of 6.5 and over, and he had 11 dots in that semifinal.
Yeah, and he took wickets of Maxwell, David Warner.
He took Mitch Marsh, Smith, Warner, and Maxwell.
Massive wickets.
96 for 5 was Australia and at the end of his 12th over, which was his last over.
Yeah, I just feel like Shadab does not have the repetition in his body to come in and bowl a delivery of his choice. When we met him in Islamabad, he told us that there was a coach that sort of outlined the issues, the technical issues in his bowling action. And it was funny, he actually asked me to go behind the side screen and record his bowling while they were playing a practice match.
He was working on it.
He was working on it. He was working on his landing foot, on his run up. But I think he needs an extended time off to actually go in the nets and fix these things. I have been trying to have a braced front leg as a medium pace bowler to drag my right leg as a right arm bowler to increase my pace. I practice that in the nets, but when I go to the match, my body just goes back to what it knows, back to muscle memory. So, I mean, from experience, I can tell you, I also need time off from playing cricket to go in the nets and work on these technical things. So Shadab might be going back to domestic. And then this is the funny part. We picked Abrar Ahmed as a specialist spinner. He's the only person in the team who was picked as a specialist spinner. And his mystery spin has left all of us in a continued mystery.
Yeah. We will never see it. We never saw it.
And
since 8 months, we haven't seen this guy perform at all.
We talked about Pakistani players and their cryptic Instagram stories in the past. Abrar Ahmed had an Instagram story posted today, which was, I'll read what it said. It was a quote, and it says, "Khamoshi se bada jawab koi nahi hota, lekin khamoshi se bada azab bhi koi nahi hota." To translate that, he said, "There is no greater answer than silence, but there is also no greater punishment than silence." What does that mean?
Reminds me of that Oprah viral quote where she asks someone, she says, "Were you silent or were you silenced?"
Wow.
Right? I urge everybody to check it out. I saw it on TikTok like 3 days ago. Man, I mean, this is the crux of everything, is it not? Abrar has said everything that I've wanted to say. And except we haven't been silent. We've been extremely vocal. This is our job. And I really wish that Abrar had an outlet where he could come out and say all these things. I hope he comes on the podcast one day. And that's how I would start the podcast, asking him, "Yo, what happened?
What's that code, bro?
What is going on?" Not the quote, like, why did you, not a single over, not a single match he got. Like, I don't know. Like, there are counter arguments. One being, Imad Wasim was bowling really well. You got Ifti in the team, and then you got 4 pacers. You really didn't need a spinner in New York or in Dallas or in maybe in Dallas, but not in Florida. So there was really no need to play him.
And you were also stuck with Shadab Khan because ultimately at the end, I would say in the New York leg at least, Shadab was playing as a middle-order batsman.
Yeah, he was playing at 5.
He didn't bowl against India.
Yeah.
I don't think he bowled against Canada.
He bowled against no one except Ireland. He bowled 1 over for 11.
Yeah. He also bowled against USA, but he was sort of smashed by Aaron
Was
Jones
he?
towards
I don't think he was.
Yeah, he bowled.
Oh, he bowled that one over, yeah.
What did he bowl 2 overs or 3 overs? And then Iftikhar bowled his 4th over.
Yes.
Yeah, he bowled the 16th over.
Yeah, because I remember Aaron Jones smacking him for 6 down mid wicket.
Correct. So, and then he bowled 1 over against Ireland. There was a drop catch that went for 6. He could have had a wicket there, but catches was not taken by Abbas Afridi.
Yeah, he scored 40 off 25 against that game. Actually, kind of catapulted Pakistan to 160. And then, yeah, he got smacked. Yeah, it was pretty bad.
Babar's captaincy record since his return, Pakistan has played 13 matches that were completed. Babar's won 6 matches and he's lost 7 matches, which includes losses to a New Zealand C team, Ireland, and USA.
And India.
Which
is tough.
Yeah, I was talking about like the sort of the smaller teams that
but
we lost.
You gotta bring that up. He lost to India again. And that was not a game to lose. It was on a platter. You just had to run a ball. You gotta give all these caveats. Because this is where Babar's captaincy has many a times been exposed. And once again, it's there. What do you think about his captaincy? Do you think it continues after?
I think if I were Babar and I had that sort of a World Cup, I would have come back and I would have resigned. I would have been like, man, I took the captaincy back. I wanted to win the World Cup. It didn't happen. I want to pass the reins on to somebody else who might be able to do the job better. Because Pakistan's next white ball assignment is against Australia, in Australia, at least for now. And if Pakistan is looking ahead towards the next T20 World Cup, that's going to be played in 2026 in India. So does Babar see himself captaining that World Cup for Pakistan? If not, now is the time for Babar to step down. I remember back when India was knocked out of the group stage of the T20 World Cup, Virat Kohli wanted to resign from captaincy for white ball. But India, BCCI realized that the next T20 World Cup is next year and the next ODI World Cup is in 2 years. So it's better to take all 3 format captaincy.
That's not what happened.
What happened?
Kohli didn't want to give the red ball captaincy.
That's what I said. So he wanted to give up the white ball captaincy, but he wanted to continue as a test captain. But
yeah,
India took...
You didn't say that.
I did say that.
Okay, fair enough.
So BCCI took all 3 formats and gave it to Rohit because they were future looking at the World Test Championship, the World T20, the ODI World Cup, and I guess the Champions Trophy that's coming in next year.
He talked about how angry he was that first year. Do you remember this?
And that reflected back into his game. He wasn't able to score a century for the longest time.
Yeah, he was very angry, and then he talks about when he did score that century against, I think it was Afghanistan in the Asia Cup. He just felt like a weight was relieved off of his shoulders, and this was what I was chasing, really, this. And I think Babar should have done something like that, as opposed to coming back and taking back the captaincy. He should have let Shaheen do his thing. Maybe Shaheen would have done something better. Maybe he would have gelled these boys better. Maybe he would have found something. Like, the butterfly effect. A butterfly flaps its wings and 700 miles away and you can cause a hurricane in Central America. That's how significant small act like that can be. Imagine just changing captains. Maybe it would have been positive mojo. Maybe it would have been a whole different set of rules. Maybe these guys would be a lot more gelled. Maybe Usman doesn't come back. Maybe you have Salman Liaqa instead. Maybe Salman Liaqa does great. Like, you don't know, right? You don't know what plans Shaheen had. Like Imad and Amir were in his plans. He had them. He gave them a call. He wanted them to come back. And ironically, Imad lost the India game and Amir lost the USA game. But we don't talk about that. I guess it's just one of those things, man. Like, this has been one of the worst campaigns for Pakistan ever. And I was there for the 2007 campaign. I was there for the 2003 campaign. This one just hurt a lot more. In 2003, you were saying goodbye to an era of cricket, right? You were saying goodbye to the Wasim Waqar era. You were saying goodbye to Saeed Anwar era. A lot of these guys were sort of moving on. Moin Khan, he retired after a year after that. But you knew that this was coming. A new lot was coming in. Yunus, Yusuf, Afridi, Malik, these guys were going to take over. In 2007, something similar happened in Z walking away. In 2015, another another end of an era. Yunus, Misbah, Afridi, all these guys were walking away from ODI cricket. It was over for them. I think this is similar. I don't know if anybody's retiring or anybody's walking away, but there needs to be drastic changes. And this might be the wake up call that Pakistan cricket team needs. Now, I don't know if Mohsin Naqvi is the guy to actually enforce this. I don't know if Pakistan even is in good hands in terms of the cricket board. That's for time to tell. But as it stands right now, the surgery thing, and I don't know, it needs to happen.
The problem with Mohsin Naqvi is that he is a political appointee. He has little to no knowledge about cricket. And so he gets all his information from people that are around him within the board, that being Wahab Riaz. Now, Wahab Riaz is also a political appointee. He is in the Pakistan team with a self-made role as a senior team manager.
Ex-sports minister, like conflict of
Whatever that
interest.
is, right? He's out there. He's in the team dugout. He's giving away caps. He's also vacationing with his family. So I don't know exactly what sort of information Wahab Riaz is feeding to Mohsin Naqvi. I think an important thing that I heard Gary Kirsten say in the post-match conference after Pakistan lost to India was that Gary said, for me, the most important thing for every international player is that you continue growing and developing as a player and understanding what the demands of international competition are. The game is changing pretty much every year. So if you are not up to it and you're not improving, you're going to get found out somewhere. And I think with Gary saying that, he said a lot to some of the players in the Pakistan team who have been playing regularly for the past few years, who have failed to evolve their game with modern day standards.
Can I summarize Gary Kirsten's entire quote in one movie quote? I think that everybody will understand a lot better. In Shawshank Redemption, Morgan Freeman's character says, "Get busy living or get busy dying." And that's exactly what Pakistan cricket is. Either you evolve and you get busy, like, adhering to the new modern changes that the cricket is facing every single day, or get busy dying because you're not going to survive. Otherwise, you're going to be just one of those former teams. And, I can't even be like, oh, you're going to be a Bangladesh because Bangladesh is in the Super 8s right now. They actually played really good cricket. They almost had South Africa in a chokehold. One cricket law here and there, and maybe they would have won 4-0. So it's in shambles. It's crazy to me that you get someone like Gary Kirsten, who made a very young Indian team champion in 2011, to the same Gary Kirsten who feels like he's aged 20 years in the past 14 days with the Pakistan cricket team.
Something really weird also that I've noticed today actually is there's been a quote circulating from Gary Kirsten on the media where Gary is saying that he's never seen a Pakistan team,
Any team, he said.
any team which is this disunited,
Yeah.
which is not on the same page, where the players are not supporting each other. He's never experienced that before. A caveat about this quote is that we've actually haven't heard Gary say this.
He denied it. I saw a Snapchat. I saw someone screenshot. Someone talked to Gary and they screenshotted that and he said, I never said that. But what I was told, or what I read, was that he didn't say this to the press. He was saying this at a team meeting or a meeting conference with the players as they were leaving. And somebody leaked that. So
That's so bad. That's horrible. Like, what must Gary be thinking? Like, whatever he says in a team meeting now has the scope of being leaked in the media.
Yeah.
And Pakistan has a history of leaking things. I remember the last ODI World Cup, there were constant leaks that were happening from the team via this journalist called Qadir Khwaja. And I cannot begin to explain how accurate those leaks were. And they were coming straight from the Pakistan dressing room. And there was somebody in that 18-man squad who was leaking those news. So how do you build trust and security within the team when there's a snake in there who is
A
leaking?
rat.
Yeah.
very Departed style. You remember that movie?
Yeah.
There was a rat in both sides, bro. You just didn't know who it was. It was Matt Damon. But it's crazy because let's talk about the PCB chairman for one more second. 2023 World Cup was not a campaign for Pakistan to remember, and yet what you remember from that, at least as a Pakistan cricket fan, is all the scandals and rumors that were surrounding that campaign, which was your as Pakistan is playing the World Cup, a press release comes out from the PCB saying, "Hey, this is not my team. These are not the guys we selected. This is all on Zamam's shoulder, and don't blame me." Right? Similarly, the whole surgery quote from from Mr. Naqvi, okay, fine, he didn't say it, or there's no proof of him saying it, but the reports that are coming are that it came from his mouth, and he said it to a room full of journalists, and they're running with it, and he hasn't come out and denied it. Again, what's the difference between you and Zaga Ashraf then, Naqvi Saab? Like, this is crazy to me that in between a World Cup campaign, we're getting this kind of news coming out. How is it supposed to help anybody?
I'm not even sure at this point who would be a good option for a chairman, because
You can't change this guy again.
no, because we had a cricketer, we had Ramiz Raja, but he was so busy hyping up Babar, hyping up Rizwan, and giving him all the powers in the world that we eventually saw some of that got to Babar's head.
I want to talk about that too. In Pakistan cricket lore, Imran Khan's stature is huge. Obviously, he won the only ODI World Cup that Pakistan has won, and I think people many times forget the circumstances at which Pakistan won that World Cup. If you go and look back at that World Cup, Pakistan only had 2 good games. That semi-final against New Zealand, I believe, and that final against England. Those were the 2 good games that Pakistan had. Apart from that, their whole campaign was shit. The only reason that Pakistan got through was because, this game got rained out and they got their points split and they just made it into number 4. Right? Somehow, for whatever reason, we have mythicized that so much that that's become part of the lore of Pakistan cricket. Hey, I can't believe that this is happening. Oh, it's only like 1992. Oh, this like in the whole 2022 World Cup campaign, that was like, oh my God, Pakistan just made it through and they're going to play New Zealand and they're going to play a final. It's like 92 all over again and the MCG. Okay, to be honest, that was like very uncanny the way that was turning out to be. And if Pakistan had beaten that English team, then the whole thing would be reinforced all over again.
Babar for PM.
Yeah, whatever. And like, that's come back to bite us so hard, the 92 World Cup win. And let me explain. In the 80s, Imran Khan comes out and he sees that there is no system, there is no structure, there is no like support for these players. And he comes out and starts becoming the dictator in charge, right? He's the one who's doing the team selections. He's the one who's running practices. He's the one who's choosing who's coming in, who's coming out. He sets the decorum. Everybody's kind of scared of him. He has that stature. And lo and behold, he is also one of Pakistan's greatest all-rounders of all time, so that he can be that guy. He's also like very well educated. He has exposure from outside of Pakistan. He studied in Oxford. He's an Oxford man. So he comes back. He does all this stuff, and Pakistan wins the World Cup. So now that's sort of become the precedence. Fast forward to 2021, when Ramiz comes in and becomes PCB chairman, Imran Khan kind of tells him that, hey, Rambo, what Pakistan team needs is a guy like me in the 80s, so make Babar that guy. And he just gives Babar all that power, forgetting the fact that Imran Khan had all that power in the 80s and early 90s was not good. That was because the system was so bad that somebody had to step up. And in 30 years, we couldn't fix the system. And we needed that all over again. The fact that Imran Khan was choosing players and doing the selection of the team means that your selection committee sucked. They had no power. They were making horrible decisions. That's the tradition that we carried forward. Yeah, sure. Babar got his say, and I think the captains should have the say on who they want to play. There should be a back and forth communication. I'm not ruling that out. I'm not saying the selection committee should choose the entire team. All I'm saying is that there has to be a balance. There has to be weight on both sides. It has to be a two-for. It can't be a 1-4. And with the amount of power that Babar went to his head, it'll go to your head. All that power will go to your head, regardless. And this is where we are now. Yeah, I know you started the whole podcast with how did we get here. I think you can trace the silver linings all the way back to the 80s and further beyond if you want, at the cracks of Pakistani cricket, at the cracks of foundation of Pakistani cricket. And you can find a way through all that, crap into 2024 and you can see what happened.
The fact that Imran Khan picked players like Wasim Akram from the Nets or
Inzi,
Vakar from watching a game on TV,
Yep.
or Inzi after the selector said that he should not be picked, that just shows the fact that he's picking players off of his eye and not based off of domestic records.
the cricket brain that Imran Khan had, I don't think Babar Azam even has a tenth of that. The fact that Babar Azam came out and was like, Nawaz, tu mera match winner, you are my match winner, just shows you that this guy did not have the Imran Khan eyes. He didn't have the scope, the awareness to go out and choose the guy, and whatever the scenario might be, like Imran and Javed Mirdad hated each other throughout their tour, right? But Imran knew that there was no way Pakistan was going to win without Javed Mirdad. So he had him in the team. If Babar had that, Imad would have been playing.
I think also in that same era of Babar's captaincy, Babar started to believe his own hype.
Yes.
And that also has to do with a lot of what the fans did. King Babar, or Babar is our Kohli, Babar is a savior, Babar is going to be that guy for us.
Kaun karega?
King kar lega. So Babar started believing that he was, in fact, that savior for Pakistan cricket after Imran Khan, who's going to lead this team to greatness. And somewhere along the line, post 2022, there's been a dip in Babar's captaincy.
And his form.
And his batting form.
Yep.
And his batting form. There's been no evolution in his captaincy, and his batting form has dipped. He is failing to turn up in multi-nation tournaments. He's become sort of a king of bilaterals, but his performances haven't lived up to the same level that his bilaterals are.
I don't even think he's the king of bilaterals. This year, he was a no-show in all the bilaterals. Maybe in this New Zealand series, he kind of stood up a little bit. But that same series has that same game where he was struggling for his life. Do you remember that game? I think we streamed that live. 30 odd balls he played. He couldn't even make it to like 15, 20 runs. It was a horrible, horrible shit show. And he got caught up. And they were dropping him left and right. That Mark Chapman dropped him like twice. And still Babar could do nothing.
I think it also
he's just not that guy.
It has to go back to us as a Pakistani nation as well. Like, we don't believe in fixing the system. We don't believe in having, let's say, a stable government or a good economy. But instead, we believe in one guy coming in and fixing everything for us.
The Messiah complex.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that also reflects back into cricket, where we think that one captain will change things, one chairman will change things, or one coach will change things. But if you look at our history, that's not been the case. We've changed captains, we've changed coaches and selectors, but our results haven't been as consistent.
I want to take some comments from the Patreon fam, because I put it on the Patreon. Final thoughts for Pakistan this World Cup and what they said. I just want to read through these because I think this is a very good reflection of what the public is thinking as well. Ali Khan left 2 comments. The first one said pain. Second one said, we need some serious surgery. If you both guys were the co-PCB chairman, what changes would you enact?
I would have at least 5 or 6 of these guys not on the team. I would send them off to domestic. And for example, Shadab Khan, I would not have him in the team for the next tour. I would ask Shadab to go and play first class, to leave some league contracts. I would ask Azam Khan to decide what he wants his future to be. Does he want to play for Pakistan, or does he want to be a league player? If the latter is true, then just go ahead and do your thing. But if Azam has the courage to play for Pakistan, then he has to focus on his fitness. There shouldn't be any compromise for that. And I think that fitness standard needs to be spread throughout the whole team. Bring back the yo-yo test, bring back the fat level checks, because if you're not fit at this level, if you're not watching your diet, if you're not disciplined with your lifestyle, then clearly you're not serious about playing for Pakistan.
What I would do is I would take Simran and Mikhail to every single Pakistan cricket tour, and I would stay in the hotels and have team meetings every time I'm there. Much like Mohsin Naqvi.
Yeah.
I
think if you look at the future as well, like what happens to Imad Wasim, what happens to Mohammad Amir?
They're gone.
Will they take a PCB central contract and be limited to 2 NOCs?
Bashar, would you?
It depends. It depends what I prioritize.
You're Mohammad Amir. You're a fast bowler. You're Mohammad Amir, right? You came back. You had a really good tournament, actually. You bowled economically. You took a lot of wickets. I think you wicket every single game. And, first Pakistan first round exit. But hey, knock, knock. GT20 is calling. CPL is calling. Lanka Premier League is calling. Big Bash is calling. The 100 is calling. They're all giving you 100,000 plus contracts. What are you playing?
Well, if I put myself in Amir's place, Amir retired so he can play leagues. He came back so he can win the World Cup. He wasn't able to win the World Cup, so it only makes sense to go back into retirement. And
Bro, Amir has nothing to prove for these people.
yeah,
He's a T20 champion winner.
he came
And
back
he's
after 4 years, and he was Pakistan's best bowler this World Cup. He took the most wickets at the best
Most
economy and
economy, yeah.
average.
Amir has nothing to prove. He's a Champions Trophy winner. He's a T20 World Cup winner. And he's played 2 T20 World Cups. Okay?
This was his third one.
Yes.
No. 9, 10, and then 16, 24. Yeah, 4.
So at this point, he has nothing to prove. He has the gold and the silverware. And he might have 5 more years to play cricket because he's 33 or 34 now. And he's just going to bowl his heart out in leagues and make the dough and relax. Maybe go have a airwire contract and talk shit about more Pakistan cricket team in the future. That's the thing. I would, if I was Mohammad Amir, I would not come back, especially not in this environment. Bro, Shaheen is leading this team really well. He's leading the bowling attack really well, and he's probably learned a lot from Amir. And I'm hoping that Shaheen carries that form out because Shaheen in that 2019 World Cup, where Shaheen introduced himself, he was a better bowler. If you remember, I think he took like 5 wickets against Bangladesh.
6 wickets.
6 wickets against Bangladesh. He took like a 4 for or 3 for against New Zealand as well. He was like
He took 16 wickets that World Cup.
one of the best bowlers for Pakistan ever, and that was the highest wickets after Shahid Afridi and Wasim Akram. And 21 they had.
And he missed some games as well.
Yes. So like he's the guy. He's the guy who's leading your pace attack, and I think the answer is to bring Amir Jamal back. Honestly, I would take Amir Jamal over Mohammad Amir just because he gives you that batting edge and gives you the balance.
The reason why I was critical of Amir being in the team initially was I didn't see exactly how he would fit in the bowling attack. And by that, I meant that Shaheen is a new ball bowler. Naseem Shah is a new ball bowler. Imad Wasim in T20s is a new ball bowler. And so is Mohammad Amir. So to utilize all these bowlers to their best, I didn't see exactly how, will Shaheen give up the new ball? Will Naseem give the new ball up? Will Imad give the new ball up? Because if I want to make the most of Mohammad Amir being in my team, he has to bowl the new ball. So
he was first chains throughout, right?
Yeah, it's not like I grew up watching the Mohammad Amir who comes in and snaps his wrist and brings the ball back in. And that wicket that he got of Navneet Dhaliwal was glimpses of what Amir used to be. So for me to watch Amir in this stage of his career, yes, he's very skillful. Yes, he's very smart, but that's not really the Amir that I knew of. Like he's coming in, bowling his cutters, bowling a length ball, but like the OG Amir used to bowl. Amir back in the day, like the Amir pre-ban or even post-ban, is still a better bowler than Shahid Afridi.
Oh, that's your hot take?
It's a statement. It's a fact.
Okay. Interesting. I'll see how you hold on to that in the next couple of weeks. The weeks coming through. Umair Siddiqui said, absolutely painful and horrible to watch. Hurts me to say, but Babar, Rizwan, Shaheen, Shadab, Rove, Fakhr, these guys have been playing since 2021. They need to leave the T20s and not come back unless they improve their game. Complete rebuild. Babar needs to resign. No longer a what if needs to happen. Have Gary Kirsten as the front man for the rebuild. Wahab should be held accountable for his mismanagement and poor selection. Mohsen Ahmed says, I was hopeful, assuming that after the failure in the World Cup, positive changes will be made. Now I'm pessimistic with Babar's press conference where he was unwilling to step down as captain. Yeah, that was tough. Babar's press conferences have been tough, if I'm being honest. Just going to take a couple more here. Amar Amnani says, everyone wants Babar out, and so do I, but who is our next captain? Not Rizwan, because he is as timid as Babar is. Of course not Shaheen. He has been horrible with the ball. Shadab currently doesn't make it in my playing 11. If not Babar, then who? That's a really good question.
It's a good point. Actually, in most countries, they pick the captain who is the most tactically aware. Someone who has captaincy experience. In Pakistan, we always look for the guy who makes a playing 11 first. And then we're like, okay, so this guy is the only guy who can fit the playing 11. Maybe make him captain.
Give me a name, Bashar. Don't beat it on the bush.
Shoaib Akhtar says, let's make Naseem Shah captain. Martin Guptill says that Rizwan doesn't fit his playing 11 for Pakistan.
For T20s, I agree.
For T20s.
Yeah.
So I don't know exactly where Pakistan goes with this.
Give me a name, bro. Why are you beating around the bush? Just give me a name.
I think Shaheen should come back.
Okay, let's break it down.
Okay. Look, it's more deep rooted in this. Shaheen was offered by his captaincy. He denied. What makes me think that when PCB offers him captaincy, he will say yes?
He'll probably say no.
Yeah. So that leaves us with who else? Rizwan? Fakhr Zaman?
Say it. I know you want to say it.
What?
Shan Masood.
Sean Masood?
Yeah.
Oh no.
I'm telling you right now, it's going to be Sean Masood.
Okay, even having Sean Masood in the team, how does that solve any of our problems? Because our problem right now is that we have no middle order batsmen. We have 5 openers in the team. And what we need to do now going forward is have proper middle order batsmen. That means maybe play Iftikhar where he needs to play. Iftikhar, I think there's been a lot of ambiguity with what his role is. Is he a batsman? Is he a bowler? Is he an all-rounder? If he's an all-rounder, he's not bowling overs. If he's a batsman, he is batting below Imad Wasim and Shadab Khan.
Okay, let me throw another name at you. Because I'll come back to the Sean Masood point in 1 second. Fakhar Zaman as T20 captain.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Fakhar Zaman, he's a good player. He's been a flop this World Cup. He's an attacking player. He's probably the only genuine match winner.
Fakhar back at opener as captain.
Okay, Fakhar needs to go back to open. Captaincy or not, I think we will look back at this Fakhar Zaman era and we'll be like, why the hell was Pakistan playing Fakhar Zaman at number 4?
Because
yes, he has the stats.
152 for 0.
He has the stats to back himself up to play at number 4, but he is playing in a role that's not really
his role.
Yeah, he's an opener, right? He's the guy who comes in, who scored runs for Pakistan under Sarfaraz's captaincy, and that's what got Pakistan the success of winning 11 series in a row. So for him to be playing out of his place at number 4, firstly shows he's the only guy who's actually playing for the team.
100%.
I've never seen Fakhar Zaman come and be like, I'm not happy playing at number 4. I'm playing it for the team. I'm doing the team a favor. That's what Babar and Rizwan do. When Rizwan got pushed to 1 down, he said, I'm not happy. When Babar got pushed to 1 down, he says he's not comfortable.
When Rizwan was playing at 5 or 6, he came at a press conference and was like, I want to play at 4.
Yeah.
Like, you'll never hear Fakhar say, and that's exactly why I think he's the man for white ball T20. Now, this is my theory. Hear me out on this. Sean Masood gets red ball. Nobody's taking that away from him. I think he was a pretty good captain in Australia. He also takes ODI captaincy. That's my opinion.
What do you mean takes it? Babar has to resign or the chairman needs to take it from him.
Yeah, 100% that's happening. Either or. You choose. Either he's resigning or it's getting taken away from him.
You know what? It all depends on what Babar's dad says. Because Babar takes a lot of his opinions and decision making from his dad.
And I respect that for sure. But obviously his dad is not a cricketing person, so maybe he's not giving him the best advice. But screw that. In a world where Babar is either A, resigning, or B, his captaincy is taken away, this is what's going to happen. White ball cricket and 50-over cricket is more... I heard Usman and Samedian say this, and I thought about this a lot, and I agree with him. But I want to hear your opinion on this too. 50-over cricket is more closely related to test matches than it is to T20, yes or no?
Sure, yeah.
Right? So it makes sense to have the guy who's leading you in red ball to maybe also be leading you in 50-over, because it's more or less the same. Because, it's a longer game. You don't need high impact players as much. You need to sort of build your innings out. You have chances of reconstruction. 50-over is the most complete form of cricket, and nobody can argue on me on that. So you bring Sean Masood for red ball and ODIs, and then you give Fakhar Zaman the white ball T20 till the 2026 World Cup.
It's an interesting take. I'm not sure how much I agree with that. I'm still in the boat where I feel like if Shaheen agrees, he could be that guy for Pakistan in the next few years.
Shaheen can take it back after the 26th World Cup or after the Champions Trophy. Shaheen will. Yeah, but Shaheen will come back as captain. That's like my intuition is that maybe not now. He just needs to get this out of his system. Like, how Virat Kohli said, when the captain is taken away from you, you're bitter for a year. Let that year pass. It's only been a few months. Let the Champions Trophy happen. Maybe they'll go to the semifinals. If they're playing at home, maybe they'll make the finals. Things will change. As you start winning, things do change, right? The reason why we never heard Waqar and Wasim being all out hating each other, and that they hated each other in the 90s, is because they won stuff. They kept winning. They kept beating India in India. They kept, winning cups and making it to the finals and everything. They were really, really good. So we never heard about it. But you hear about these things a lot more when you're losing, and that's just the fact.
It's interesting. I mean,
that's
Fakhar Zaman. There's no evidence of him being a good captain. He hasn't captained at the domestic level or in the PSL.
True.
So there's no evidence of him saying that, okay, Fakhar Zaman could be a good captain, that he has the brains of being a leader or a good tactician.
There's no other person that I can think can do it because he's the senior player. He's been playing the team since 2017. It's been 7 years, right? Maybe more. 7 years, around about 7 years. He's been the core player in almost all three formats, apart from test matches. He hasn't played that, but white ball, T20s and ODIs, he's the guy, and he's, I guess, the safest bet. Like he doesn't bring controversy with him. He doesn't bring.
He does, because he's also managed by the same agency as
Saya.
Babar and Rizwan.
Saya, like that's a whole. Half the Pakistan cricket team is. What are you gonna do? You got to break that up. That's a whole different thing. But that's my guy, I think. Moving on. Some pointers that should. So Omer Siddiqui also said. Omer also suggested Sean, by the way. Just FYI. Zen said Shaheen, but Omer said Sean.
Sean right now is captaining Yorkshire and
Who's under him?
Joe Root and David Milan.
There we go. There we go. So,
but I don't know exactly like where does he fit in Pakistan's batting order? Where does he play? Does he open? Both in ODIs and T20s. Listen. So Shah Masood was Pakistan's highest run scorer in Australia in that T20 World Cup.
Yes.
And that final against England is the last match he played for Pakistan in T20s.
That's crazy to me. I think he plays at 3. Babar goes at 1. And you have Fakhr at what, 2?
And Rizwan?
5 or 6.
That's too low for Rizwan.
Then he's out.
I think Pakistan, they need to go back and think of having actual mid-loader batsmen.
Sean can also play at 4, to be honest. Sean at 4, Babar at 3, Haris at 1, and Fakhr at 2. Then you get your keeping solved. Sure. And then you can 5, 6, 7, you can fit like proper middle order batsmen there.
Okay.
I'm only saying Sean could play at 4 because Sean has played at 3 and he was the highest run scorer at that position. So 3 or 4 is not really widely different, but he could play that. That's just my like straight gut feeling is saying that that's how that would work. Tamir Bani says, I would love to hear your rankings of performances of you guys of guys who played at least 2 games each. We kind of went through that. Tamir, Bashar did like a breakdown of all the players. Zan says, who do you think is a core that we can rebuild around? I think Babar is on, Fakhr, Shaheen, Naseem, and maybe Rauf stay. I blame Zagasha for internal strife within the team. Moving forward, I think PCB needs to invest way more in PSL and domestic to raise standards. We already called PSL a scam. I don't think that's the best way to gauge players. Domestic definitely needs a lot more money and investment pumping in to make it better. Who's the core that you rebuild around, Bashar? The names he took was Babar Rizwan, Fakhr, Shaheen, Naseem, and Rauf.
Yeah, I think Pakistan needs to figure out how to best extract performances from Rizwan, because again, my stance for the past 3 years is I don't like to have 2 anchors in the top 3. And so regardless if Rizwan is opening, Babar is 1 down, or Babar is opening, Rizwan is 1 down, you still have the problem of having 3 anchors in the top 3.
Do you remember what position Rizwan used to play before he was opener?
He used to play 5-6.
Why can't he go back there?
Because he did not have the numbers or the power hitting ability to play at number 5-6. I think the only other place that Rizwan can play is maybe number 4. Maybe number 4.
No, I think that if your player is not ready to adapt, because he quickly adapted to opening. He wasn't an opener.
Well, Mohammad Haris in an interview said that opening is the easiest thing to do.
He said it on backward point.
No, he said it on Crickwick.
Okay.
He said that, if I open in the PSL, I can guarantee you scoring a 50.
Yeah, so when your best players are looking for a way out, that's alarming. Your best players should step up and be like, I'll play whatever position you want me to play. Like Babar Azam just being adamant that he wants to open is so frustrating because he can play anywhere he wants. And you can give impactful openers the start to like build the innings around. So, yeah. Tamir Khan says PCT needs health insurance. The surgery they need is life-threatening. And Rabia says, finally, that this might sound bizarre, but I generally think Mohammad Haris needs to be given captaincy.
Pakistan does have a history of giving captaincy to players who were never in the team.
Shoaib Malik, 2007.
Who were never in the team. 2015 ODI World Cup. After that, Azhar Ali comes back in the team as captain, who was never in the team for the past 2 years.
That was a really horrible era for Pakistan cricket, by the way. Azhar Ali as ODI captain was very tough to watch. Rabia Khan, and then she says, give him young guns plus few from current pool, Naseem, Wasim Jr., etc. Give this young lot a good run all the way to the 2026 World Cup. They might lose a lot, but give them at least 2 years to be fierce. And I think Pakistan might end up with catching up with the rest of the world in T20s. Everyone else needs to be seriously start focusing on the longer formats of the game as well. 2027 isn't too far.
Yeah, I think Pakistan needs to have a pool of like 25 players and like give them the security that we'll be playing you guys across formats for the next 2 to 3 years. And I think that's sort of what Mickey Arthur did when he became coach along with Sarfaraz. Like we saw improvement. We saw growth in players like Shatab, Fakhr, Hassan Ali, Fahim Ashraf. And I think that's been missing in the past few years ever since Babar became captain. We haven't seen players evolve or grow, and that stagnation now reflects in Pakistan's performances. Like Pakistan under Babar's captaincy played the 21 semifinal, 22 final in the Asia Cup and World T20. But since then, 23 Asia Cup, group exit, 23 World Cup, group exit, and then 2024 T20 World Cup, you don't even make it to the Super 8s. So it's a decline.
Yeah, 22 was the peak, and 24 is as worse as it gets. Let's wrap it up. But before we do that, like I mentioned before, let's quickly review the Pakistani cricket shows right now. I want to talk about that because so much of that content I've consumed, and I have a lot to say about it. I think the way that Pakistan media covers Pakistani cricket is extremely problematic. What is Wasim Adami doing hosting a cricket show?
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows. I gotta give shout outs to Tabish Hashmi here. He, I think, was as balanced as one could be as being a cricket fan. The amount of outrageous shit that Ahmed Shahzad spews in a single episode of Harna Manahe is insane. And I could just see, I have to give Tabish Hashmi props because I see him being restrained. Like, he's being very, very respectful of Ahmed Shahzad. There are times where he pushes back, he brings stats up. He's like, bro, you were not that good either. And you can see the vein in Ahmed Shahzad's forehead pop when that happens. But it's just absolutely like cringeworthy to consume. I don't know how people do that.
It's almost like Ahmed Shahzad is media trained. Like you ask him any question about the match or team, and he brings everything back to Babar Rizwan, Syed Corps, and it's just disgusting to see sometimes. Like it's okay, like be critical, but be respectful. All of these players are on their phones, and these clips, these news, they get to them.
Yeah, and it's not even about being critical or respectful. It's like your agenda is so obvious. It's so obvious that I can't even look. I can't even look at you seriously. And that's the thing with Tabish. He's like, you bring it back. You bring everything back to Bobby Road. Like you're obsessed. You're so obsessed with him, right? So yeah, horrible way to like consume any of the cricket content there. So Harlama Purjosh, I give it a 5 out of 10. How about you?
Lower actually, because they have Kamran Akmal as an analyst.
Yeah, I forgot about that. That one's tough, man. That one. All they do is shout. Basit Ali, all he's doing is shouting and crying. And
we're living in a weird era where Salim Malik is accusing the Pakistan team of fixing. We have Kamran Akmal talking about Asif Khan's fielding and wicket keeping. We have Ahmed Shahzad talking about batting and strike rates in the power play. So yeah, I don't know what to expect.
The other shows I think the Flick with Zainab Abbas, Misbah, Shoaib Malik, and Basit, I think that's a lot more balanced. They're not as emotional and as fever pitched as everybody else is, so I rate them a little bit more highly. Who else? Doc got behind. Your favorite.
It used to be.
The reason we started this podcast was because of the amount of times Bashar would listen to Caught Behind on his phone and just be like thoroughly enthused. I'm like, what is this? So I gave it a shot this season, and honestly, Rashid Latif and Doc, I cannot just. They have so many inside jokes that I'm just like lost. Like he'll say something like Doc will be like, "Oh, Pakistan ki batting ke baare mein bataएं," and then Doc will Rashid Latif will be like, "यार वो तो आपको बता चुका हूँ, अच्छा छोड़े ना यार छोड़ दें उसको." Like, and they would just like go on this tangent where they're like just talking in like code and like we're just supposed to understand what they're meaning, and I'm just like, what is going on?
Rashid Latif is a pretty big conspiracy theorist.
So big.
Like he'll bring the most crazy out of the box idea and try to pitch it to you. So I just stopped listening to him.
Yeah, and then you started your own podcast.
Yeah.
So but they have some really good guests recently. They had Usman, which I listened to, was very, very enjoyable for me. Because Usman was talking more than the other two. And there's a Kamran Muzaffar is there too. He's I don't know what he does. He's a data analyst apparently. And then they recently had Harsha, which was a really good episode. We listened to it on our drive back. I think Harsha is a great speaker. Would love to have you on the podcast, Harsha. And who else did they have that I really enjoyed? They had Jadeja, Ajay Jadeja on it, who was with Afghanistan team. And that was a really good one too. So they've been having some good guests. So I bumped them a bit higher. I can listen to them. Who else? Am I missing someone? You want to talk about Iffy and Wase?
I can't.
Go ahead and get it.
It's pure entertainment.
Yeah, it's just people shouting.
People hate watch them.
Yeah, people hate watch them. Who else? I'm missing a few.
What about Game On?
Oh, Game On. Okay. What is up with Game On? Why is Aaron Holland there?
Why is Martin Guptill there?
Why are two white people talking in English on a Pakistani state television channel?
I think it's because they say that channel is being showed internationally, so they want to cover some topics in English.
That channel is being paid by Pakistani taxpayers who, at 50% of them or 60% of them, cannot speak English. Why? Why do we suck up to white people so much? Now I already know the comments. Yo, you guys talk in English. We live in Canada. Our audience is predominantly North American and UK based European countries. That's who we cater to. We are not on Pakistan state television. These people, it's just so insane. Like, you can see the frustration in Shoaib Akhtar. Like, he's trying to say something, but he has to speak in English. Then he makes these weird faces when he speaks English. So you're just like, and then the only person kind of holding his own is Hafiz there. Like, he's also really angry, and you can see like his vein on his forehead right about to pop whenever you mention like the New Zealand series or the captaincy change or Najam Sethi or like he just like loses it, and it's an insane shit show.
The funniest moment in that whole show was when Aaron Holland asked Yunus Khan a question in English, and Yunus Khan, dead ass, straight face, was looking at Aaron Holland in the eyes and talking in Urdu. And Aaron was like, "Gotcha. I know what you're saying."
I think Aaron has been to Pakistan a few times now, like, right? So, and she spends a lot of time in Pakistan. So I think she kind of like understands the gist of it. Just like Cliffy. Cliffy could understand every single thing in Urdu. It was insane to me. Even like the swear words, the slangs, everything he got like a really good understanding of. So maybe that's why I give Aaron a little bit of an edge. Are we missing anybody else?
I can't think of anybody else.
These are the ones that I was consuming on a daily basis. And then obviously Buttafast and Pro Sports. I rate them a lot more higher than all of these shows. I think the stuff that Usman and Ahmed are doing, it's great. It's fun. These guys are seasoned journalists. They know how to talk the talk.
They've seen things.
They've seen things. And they have friends inside the business, so they know things. And just the restraint and respect that Usman has for the Pakistan cricket team, I love that. I think we aspire to that level. Obviously, he's been in the game for like over 25 years. He's been doing it at the highest level, just peak journalism. Same thing with Ahmed. So shout out to them, and even Pro Sports are doing a really good job with Behram and Saad, just knocking it out of the park.
Respect the hustle, guys.
Respect an hour and 30-minute podcast, man. Just knocking it out of the park. So respect to them. I think those two are the ones that I listen to a lot more than the other ones. After I started consuming all this Pakistan cricket content, I'm just like, everybody has an opinion.
Makes you realize why this podcast is so important.
I honestly, and one thing I really want to talk about, I heard a lot of misinformation, right, from these guys. It was so easy for these guys to manipulate the masses that they were saying stuff like, oh, Pakistan is out of the World Cup, did not have to play qualifiers.
Against Scotland and Namibia.
That was never the case. And because there was 3 ways you could make it into the next World Cup. A, you finish in the Super 8s, you're automatically into the next World Cup. B, you're the host country, that's why Sri Lanka is automatically in the next World Cup. Or C, by the time this World Cup finishes, you're in the top 12 in the ICC rankings, and Pakistan was already at 6 or 7. So you're just concern trolling. You know what concern trolling is? And you talk about something, like you talk about the negative so much that people start believing the negative hype. That's what these guys were doing. Vase, Iffy, Ahmed Shahzad, Basit Ali, the whole Harlama Purjos thing, they were so sarcastic about it. And I was just upset because that's misinformation you're feeding to the masses. And that creates more hysteria. And I'm at this point, I think people have now understood the fact that Pakistan does not need to play qualifiers. Pakistan is not that team. The only reason West Indies needed to play qualifiers was because they only had 10 teams in the World Cup and they were on the 11th in the ODI World Cup. So they had to play qualifiers and they lost. And, that's just the nature of things. So yeah, I'm glad that we got that covered. This has been a really long podcast, and I hope that people enjoyed it. I don't know if we were on because we had so many tangents to talk about, and the way that Pakistan exited, it was shameful. And the thing is that Pakistan lost the 21 World Cup and the 22 World Cup, and we did not feel the way that we're feeling now. There's a lot of things that have to be set right for Pakistan to succeed once again. And I don't know who's gonna do it or what's gonna happen, but as the news unfolds and as things get clearer, we will talk about it. But as it stands right now, Pakistan is eliminated, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we don't have to talk about Pakistan cricket team for the next couple of weeks, and we can focus back into the Super Eights because I think it's going to be a really good World Cup, and I think a new team will come out and be champions. Could be South Africa, could be Afghanistan. Who else? Who else in the Super Eights? Could be Bangladesh. You never know. I really
USA.
want USA. I hope not. I hope not. I think the USA fans will be so insufferable if USA make it to the semifinals. It'll be hard for me to get out of my house, and that's why I don't want them to. It's unearned for them. It's
Also,
unearned.
Netravolkar needs to extend his leave because his out of office was until June 17th, and today, as we record this, is the 18th now. So
I think Oracle has gotten so much good press from this that they will do it
their
automatically.
stock has gone up.
Has it really?
It has.
That's another Volcker effect. Well, what else to say, guys? Thank you very much for listening to Backward Mind Podcast. This has been great. It was an hour and 16 minutes, and now I'm kind of getting, like, my brain is turning into mush. Bashar, thank you for sitting with me for an hour and 16 minutes. Closing thoughts before we leave.
I think going forward, Pakistan players will be involved in lots of leagues. The LPL is happening, the MLC is happening, the T20 is happening, and then the 100 is happening, the Vitality Blast is happening. And somewhere in the midst of all this, we'll see the same thing happen again. The Pakistan team will go back home. There's going to be a committee formed. There's going to be investigations, inquiries, and nothing will happen. So I hate to be a pessimist, a realist, but I've just seen this happen way too many times. So, but still, hoping against hope.
I think the Shan Masood Fakhar Zaman era is here, guys. So hold on to your horses. It's going to be a bumpy ride. Thank you very much for listening to Backward Point Podcast. If you guys want to check out all the links at the Patreon, Discord, everything, it's down there. So please help yourselves. If you're listening on the audio platforms, please leave us a review. It really helps in the long run. And we'll see you guys on the flippity flip.